Joshua Barakas, University Management Board, panelists, guests, all KCA University staff, students, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you for investing your time with us on a Thursday afternoon. My name is Dr. Simon Mwendia, Dean School of Technology. On behalf of the school and the organizing committee, it's my great pleasure to welcome you in this panel discussion on innovation and technological entrepreneurship here at KC University. I noticed that some of you have attended this forum in person, while others are following this through online innovations. However, I'm not sure which innovations you are using to join us, which technologies you are using, but I hope whatever innovation you are using, it will help you to learn something from this panel discussion, either a new idea, a fresh perspective, or an opportunity that you can exploit to become a successful technology entrepreneur. At this point, I would like to invite our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and Student Affairs, Professor Joshua Barakas, for brief remarks and introduction of panelists. Once again, welcome, and I look forward for a fruitful session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mwendi. The guests, my colleagues, the students, and all those who have joined us both physically and virtually, good afternoon. Okay, it's another very, very good moment to have this conversation at KCA University. In fact, this is one of those conversations we have had. The most recent one was about the CBC, and it was such an engaging conversation. And we were talking about it earlier with Joe. And one of the things which comes to mind quickly is that KCA University is involved in discussions about the very current issues, and that is really good. Well, first of all, I really want to convey greetings, especially to the guests from our Vice Chancellor, Professor Isaiah Wakindiki, who could have been with us, but because of our schedule conflict, he asked us to represent him. So please receive greetings from our Vice Chancellor. So I want to say a few things about KCA University and what's happening today before I introduce the guests. Number one, as you all know, KCA University began as a school of business and accounting, finance, and that accounted for almost 90% of the business. And it's like everything which goes on at KCA University was about the money, it's about balance sheets and all that stuff. It actually turns out that that university of accountants is changing very quickly to actually be a comprehensive university. Today, you may wonder why I decided to dress this way. For those who have not seen, who can't see me, I'm dressed as those people are going to receive the Oscar awards. Unfortunately, I will not be the receiver. Probably I will be the giver. And this is because there is a very high probability that some of our Kenyan stakeholders, the KCA University stakeholders, either as a university or as faculty, or even as students, may actually feature tonight as the receivers of those kinds of things we do for art, performance, and those kinds of things. That is quite different from a university which was mainly accounting and business and finance. So that's really a development in the right direction. And so for our guests, we are in for better things, those things which actually need to take place in the minds of the young people, especially as they grow. Number two, just look at the profile of the people who have been engaged in these conversations. Joe, I don't want to remind you about what happened a few weeks ago, but the fact is you are here. And if Joe was here to be a host for such a discussion, okay, what else do you want? The only problem is we did not have it live coverage in Citizen TV, but next time I think we will. Now, again, you are going to see from today that the kind of people we have here are going to be those who could, many people could wish to have them in the conversations. Let me take a moment and I will introduce, at least say a few things about the main panelists. I can't read their profiles because they call these profiles a brief profile, and yet it is 5 pages. Do they understand what brief means? So I'm actually going to highlight some of them. Let me begin with Professor Bitangendemo. Who doesn't know about Professor Bitangendemo? Of course, if you go to his profile, you'll see so many things, but I just want to highlight a few things. Other things are obvious. He's published, he teaches at the University of Nairobi, he has mentored so many students, but for me, those are obvious. That's why he's a professor anyway, isn't it? But he's a columnist. In fact, by the way, some of the people like to read what he writes, because first of all, the content is powerful and usually it's funny. And I was in the US and I one time came to visit. And I saw on one of the papers about the people who are featuring the movers and the shakers. And I think that time it was the PS in the Ministry of Information and Technology that he was one of the movers and the shakers. I did not quite understand what that meant until many days when people talk about the concert city and all those kinds of things. But I think one of the things I like to highlight about Professor Bitangendemo is that I prefer to call my family in the US instead of them calling this way, because it is easier and cheaper to call the US than somebody from the US calling back. And I understand it's because of the work he did during those times. So we welcome you, Professor Bitangendemo, to this forum. You are the right person to talk about these issues. So we also have one of the panelists who will be joining us virtually, Eva Muraya. Now, Eva Muraya, that's one of the profiles. It was actually a brief bio, but it was quite a number of pages. But, you know, when you look at that bio, what you see is innovation, is entrepreneurship in practice. Began with being the founder and the CEO of BSD Group, okay? But what I liked the most is the description of being a serial entrepreneur. You know, when you talk about serial killers, serial marriages, you know, they are very negative. You get the point? But this is a serial entrepreneur. to me, I think that was really good. I mean, more other things like having 20 years of industrial experience in brand communications and all that. And we really, wanted to appreciate her and welcome her to our forum. Of course, she's also the director of KEPSA. Now, the other member is none other than Mheshimiwa. Now, this is Mheshimiwa Shem Ochuolo. Now, just a few descriptors about Shem. Of course, you know he was a member of parliament, so in which case he's a politician, okay? You also know what he does in academia. So he's also an academician. So let's mix those two and see what the product will be. And then I actually, when I saw him, I described him as the equivalent of Patrick Shaw. For those young people who were not grown when we had Patrick Shaw was one of the, was he, I think he was more of an intelligent person in the country, and something happens and Patrick Shaw happens to be there, whether it is good or bad. And I was actually telling Dr. Shem that I go to the US and I'm going to the KESA, they are talking about Shem Ochuolo. You come to Kenya, they are talking about. You go to Zimbabwe, they are talking about. So this is like our Patrick Shaw in this business, and then mix it all with his knowledge about technology. In fact, I'm told this was one of the first PhD holders of technology. Is that right? One of the first two. Oh, they were the first. Yes. So that is, so what we actually have tonight is a very rich conversation read by one of our best in the media industry. I actually don't want to be the one to invite him. I want Rogers. I think you can come and invite Joe and say more about him as you invite him. Thank you very much. And I want to wish you all the best as you engage in this conversation. I might leave a little earlier, but please pray for me so I can be the awardee of the Oscar tonight. Okay.
Thank you very much, our very own DVC Academic and Student Affairs, holding brief for the Vice Chancellor, Professor Joshua Gisemba Bagakas. Can we give him a round of applause? Thank you, Prof. Every moment you speak, we always continue to discover more about you. And of course, we are deeply very humble. Ladies and gentlemen, we will move to the next phase of the program. And of course, before I invite the famous man, a very prominent media personality, I know all of us are waiting to hear his voice, a break from the usual voices that we know. I wish to let us know that one of our panelists who has been properly introduced, Eva Muraya, the founder and CEO of BSD Group, is joining us via video link, and she will be able to get to discuss from that front. I think our technical team are ready, and I just want to find out if Eva can be able to say a word. No, not yet. I think she'll be able to join us. Now, next, Professor Ndemo has been introduced as the father of innovations, entrepreneurship, and of course, technology. Prof, you know, when people get to hear about you, they remember Konza. I don't want to tell you the many conversations that have been happening, but one of it is that we have, We have never had the best CS in the ICT. I'm not comparing, but I'm reporting what is said, that you have really, you left a mark, and it's something that is very memorable. Now, for that reason, I want to request Prof to go upstage, and you take your first seat to the right. Okay? Yeah, Prof, please, you can use these staircases. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you very much. Now, next, another gentleman has been introduced, and I think Prof has talked so much about him, and this is none other than Dr. Shem Ochuodho, who is a household name, and actually, properly, he has been branded many names, and one of it is the father of technology. And while at Kenyatta University, he was able to start computer science department, which led to the university partnership with World Bank. And one of the things he delivered an initial concept of the now famed African Virtual University. When I went to Rwanda, if you go to Kigali, Dr. Shem Ochuodho is more known and well celebrated, probably more than his own home country. So we want to thank you, Dr. And for that reason, we want to request you to just thank you very much. We want to request you to go upstage and just take your seat next to Dr. Ndemo as we move it to the next level. Let's give him a round of applause. And for those who know him, he is known for many things, and he's been able, to sponsor the passage of a bill, several bills, but one that was the Kenya Communication Act in Kenyan Parliament. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me at this point to introduce a gentleman. And this is a renowned media personality who is known within Kenyan media networks of fraternity. This gentleman on the in the year 1973 in Bondo, Siaya County, a beautiful baby, bouncing baby boy was born. He attended Sawagongo High School and was able to manage to get good grades. And he joined Egerton University, where he pursued Bachelor of Agribusiness Management. He completed at Egerton and was able to join University of Nairobi, where he did his postgraduate diploma in mass communication, and later decided to go international and went to Switzerland at the University of Geneva and pursued certificate in advanced studies in environmental diplomacy. And later he did an MSc in environmental governance from the University of Manchester. This gentleman was widely acclaimed as having pioneered environmental journalism and was the first Kenyan TV journalist to start a regular slot for an environmental feature, Eco Journal. He has won several awards, including Environmental Journalist of the Year in 2001. And in 2002, in Johannesburg, he attended the World Summit on Sustainable Development after winning a World Bank Fellowship and a Fellow of the Climate Change Media Partnership and Cato Fellow at the Aspen Institute in Colorado. He has advanced career progression, and his first assignment when he joined KBC, and he joined Standard Media Group in the year 2000 to 2005. He was able to serve as the deputy news editor at KTN. And thereafter, from 2005 to 2012, he served as head of news production. And then he moved through promotion to managing editor. And as we speak today, this gentleman is the editorial director at the Royal Media Services since 2018. The gentleman I'm introducing is also the chief gangster. Let us put our hands together for the chief gangster as he leads other academic gangsters this afternoon to take us through the session. Let us take this home. Let us put together our hands for Joe Ageo. Let's continue appreciating Joe Ageo as he takes over this formally as we progress to the next level. Thank you very much. Joe, over to you.
I don't know if I can be heard. Someone should tell me because, and for our gentlemen here, no, I mean for the other audience. I apologize for that. It obviously has nothing to do with my voice, I can assure you. Is that any better? So I assume that is all right. So we needed to cover the story. So we sent this camera person who was there to go and take footage, and they actually did. It was about 6 p.m. when the accident happened. And half an hour later, he went to the bus stop in Nakuru to look for a matatu that was coming to Nairobi. I think it was 2NK, if I'm not mistaken, and found somebody who was kind enough to carry the physical tape. Those days it was a tape that you'd carry and to bring to Nairobi. At about 8:30, I mean, we kept monitoring, at least there was some form of mobile telephony back then. So we kept monitoring where this gentleman was. And at about 8:30, I called him and he said he was somewhere around Kangemi. That's just a few minutes before you get to the CBD. And then I was in a panic because 9 o'clock is news time, and therefore that footage needed to get in good time for the news bulletin. At about 9 o'clock, I tried to call him and his phone was dead. And so we didn't. And so later on at 9:30, his phone came back on, and then he said, "Oh, I'm sorry, when we got to Kangemi, there was so much traffic. And then after that, my phone died and no battery or whatever it was. And then I forgot, I have this tape with me in my house, and that was somewhere in Eastlands, Nairobi. We didn't have that story. 2 years after that, I went to Nigeria to cover a story. We were with a colleague from the office, and we had a fantastic story because we were covering the elections in Nigeria at the time. And so after we had finished, we said, okay, so what do we do with this footage? We thought maybe we dash to the airport and find some good Samaritan who's going to Nairobi who would carry this tape to Nairobi. Then when we got there, we realized how ridiculous it was, because the whole thing of going through airport security and saying, oh, to Nairobi. And at that point, you don't even know if there is anyone who's going to Nairobi in the first place. You don't know if they would be interested in helping you.
Fast forward 2022, and last night I have a colleague who was hosting someone from his hotel room in Dubai, and the person was in Nairobi. That has happened in a space of just 15 or so years. What am I saying? It's a whole sea change. And what better panel to have here to just walk us through what has really happened? Because I'm sure in this room, there are people who are wondering which stone age is that I'm talking about, because they cannot understand that there was a time in the world when there was no Instagram and Twitter and all of these things. Because today, if that accident ever happened, believe me that all of us as the so-called news people will be catching up, because there would have been someone who was live on Facebook or whatever. There would have been someone else who sent pictures to the family WhatsApp group, and the grandmother has sent it to someone who is in Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this discussion, which I think all of us can relate to, because we all live in a world that is fast changing around us. There'll be an audience here, obviously, wonderful people I see here in this very serene academic setting, so very clever people here. But also there is an equally engaging audience out there that will be joining up through a platform that has been provided. And so I'm sure already there are people who are following this. So welcome to this conversation, which is not mine, quite frankly, because our panelists here have been introduced so eloquently. It's unfortunate that Eva Muraya, one of the panelists, was not able to join us physically, but thanks to technology, which is the subject of our discussion actually today, we will actually be joining her at some point. So Dr. Ochuodo, you have been introduced. Yes, that is for you, a signal for you to stand up to that podium. Give us a brief presentation. Start. Come on, give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much, Joe.
And please remember you have 10 minutes.
Thank you. DVC, representing VC. Thanks for the kind invitation. Initially, I wondered, what do I have to do with KCA? But then I recalled my first job actually was with Pricewaterhouse as an audit trainee. So we're not very far away. If you just move to the next slide, somebody I have to mention, because when I was coming, I also have some relatives. I saw somebody who looks like Emily somewhere. So I think I'm in good company. And I have my two colleagues, Ambassador Beja with me, and CPA Job Richard. So thanks, Bwana DVC, for this honored invitation. Somebody I consider our spiritual guide, Zemanu Chandaria, partly because it would be offensive if I don't talk about diaspora, because those are forgotten Kenyans, and many, including DVC here, fall into that category of membership of the diasporas. I did ask, what do I say when I go to this public lecture? Those were his words, not mine. I respect him a lot as a business person. I know we're talking about technology, but also innovation and business. He said, we must teach entrepreneurship. Next slide. Somebody else also did comment. He happens to be a past national vice chair of Kenya Chamber of Commerce, but he also served as an advisor at some point to Prime Minister Modi when he was governor of Gujarati state in India. Again, his premise is that unless you partner, you tie universities to industries in practical terms, into innovation centers and so on, whatever you do is not, because if you link them up with industries, then you get royalties. So that's commercialization of research is key. In terms of Richard Van, maybe you can just go to next slide. He talks quite a bit about innovation and technology. Of course, I believe that you're familiar with the innovation curve. Just roll it further on. Quite a bit that's very unbelievable. But remember, technology can also be very disruptive. So even though very useful, and allow me to make a little correction, I was Kenya's first software engineer graduate, so to speak. So, but that's just one aspect, as those of you in technology know. But I should also add that internet not only came to Kenya through one of my bedrooms, but also came to Sub-Saharan Africa through one of my bedrooms on the 24th of October 1995 at 3 a.m. So a little contribution I've made to this continent and this country is getting internet into Africa. But I cannot fail to talk about the diasporas, partly because they run the Kenyan economy today. They bring in more money than we get from all donors put together, double, whether we're talking of American or Chinese and so on. They bring 3.5 billion. Diaspora here, I take it in broad sense to include returnees, those of mixed families, Kenyan married to Swedish, as well as aliens, call them foreigners in our country, but also those who could be in Kenya but run companies outside the country. You can mention Equity Bank, DRC, or NTV Uganda, and so on and so forth. If you go to the next slide, if you want to analyze the diaspora, they are major stakeholders. They interact with business, whether you're in aviation or in industry, the banks, and so on. And you need to also appreciate that they work with governments, both host as well as source governments, and at devolved level and at national level. But diaspora has also come in different shades. If you go to the next slide, just roll it further on. Diasporas bring into Africa a whooping $80 billion every year. The highest amount, 30 billion to Egypt, 25 billion Nigeria, 9 billion Morocco, $3 to $5 billion every year to Kenya. And for Kenya, the 3.5 billion is more than what we get from all three leading agricultural exports. Tea, horticulture, and coffee put together bring 2.4 billion. So this is why I could not fail to talk about them, because you need money to sustain innovation. And here it is. One goal we have set as Kenya Diaspora Alliance is how do we double that amount by 2030? And how do we improve the amount that goes into investment from 25% to 35% by 2030? Because most of it goes into family consumption. Those are the various organizations. KDA brings together 47 diaspora organizations, 250,000 Kenyans across the globe. Next slide. The diaspora investment vehicle is probably the last one. Just go to the next, I'll talk about, because it provides an avenue for harnessing investments, and some of it's going into research and commercialization. This is a project we are doing together with SIDA, Swedish International Development Agency, together with Pangea Trust as an accelerator. But we also have another one we are doing with the GIZ called WeDo.Africa, which seeks to empower Mama Mboga, if I call them that. This particular investment vehicle is seeking already about 200 beneficiaries in Kenya, is looking at startups. In the next, if you go to the next slide, it gives the sectors that it addresses. And I'm glad that when at DVC, you're talking about the creative sector, because that's one of the major sectors that high job propensity sectors. Of course, you can talk of the other sector, the fintech world. That is where accounting and tech meet. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think at this point, in the interest of time, there are still more materials. I'll share those with the DVC's office for circulation. But yes, I must mention that Kenya is ready for business. There is that major asset you have in the diasporas, not only in the finances they bring, but even in terms of knowledge economy, because that's what we're talking about. I remember 2 years ago attending a summit in Rwanda, where the concern was only 2% of all global scholarly publications came from Africa, only 2%. And of that 2%, 65% came from only two countries, from Egypt and South Africa. So the question that was being asked was, where are the Rwandese professors, where are the Kenyan doctors, where are the Nigerian engineers? My point was President Kagame, my former boss, was officiating. I did request, Excellency President, why don't we change the narrative and ask, of that 98%, how much of it is African? Okay? Because we know, for example, there are more Nigerian doctors in the whole of Texas state in the US, more Ghanaian doctors in Manhattan City, New York. The average Kenyan born in the US, and Professor will confirm to you, is more educated than the average American. This is official US Statistics Bureau data. So that knowledge scale, and I'm glad we are at this stage. And I look forward to discussing more about this. Thanks for that opportunity, and thanks.
Stage, I would like to welcome Eva Muraya, who's one of our panelists here. She's joining us online. And I would just want to, first of all, Eva, I don't know if you can hear us. I mean, you've been introduced here so elaborately, but for the benefit of those who are joining us, Eva Muraya is the founder and CEO of BSD Group, and that's a brand strategy and communications company in the region. Eva, maybe you could just say hello to this wonderful audience here, and our audience is joining us online. And maybe you tell us which direction you're coming to into this conversation, given your background and all that.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe, and my fellow panelists. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for clearing out your schedules to attend a very important conversation. And I want to thank the leadership of KCA University for including me in this important conversation. I did have every intention to make it through Thika Road and enjoy the afternoon with you, but the complexities of my day didn't allow. So I really regret not being on this esteemed panel with both Dactaris, and I salute you from far off the podium. And thank you for your very kind introduction, Joe. I am an entrepreneur, so as I listen to Shem, I completely align with a lot of the things that are possible for us as entrepreneurs. I have been an entrepreneur for 20 years now, and do have a very soft spot in my heart for KCA because at some point I did grow my enterprise because of having them as a client. So this is very it's a tender moment for me, if I may say it like that. Now, this is a big conversation, and I think from where my contribution would perhaps add some level of value is appreciating a couple of levels. One, the fact, Joe, that we have been referenced within the continent as, and in fact across the world, as the African savannah. I come from the world of branding, so for me these things, they settle pretty deeply. I think that that is something that perhaps our tech world and our entrepreneurial world needs to better internalize and ask, what then should that mean for us as we position Kenya globally in a competitive space as it is? The ICT sector in Kenya has experienced significant growth, and we are all witnesses of that. We are multi-time celebrated in the different things that we have done at an innovative and a disruptive level. And this growth has been impressive because based on research, we see that the last decade has been a double digit, 10.8 annually since 2016, and it continues to grow. And then, of course, according to the 2020 Global Innovation Index, Kenya is the second most innovative economy in Africa, second only to South Africa. And we, continue to enjoy some brownie points around global ranking. But when you think about what then do we need to do to unbundle this beautiful brand that is ours to claim, African Savannah, I think from an entrepreneurial level, there might be a couple of considerations. One, I've been an entrepreneur and I began my enterprise within the context of incubation. I think there have been models, but maybe there needs to be a lot more we can do to incubate and drive innovation so that the nurturing, the coaching, the mentorship can happen at a very, very early and nascent stage. And the innovation and incubation of tech businesses and any similar could be down from county level to national levels. And now with the structure of devolution, imagine if we had the equivalent of Huduma centers for entrepreneurship. And within there have centers that are focused, dedicated, and skills invested to grow tech businesses. So together with that, of course, the place of capacity building. I know that, you know, they say that the wearer of the shoe is the one who knows how best it pinches. But Joe, I want to say, because of being an entrepreneur as long as I have been, not all of us will wake up in the morning and really be entrepreneurs. It's not a default setting. This is something that people must be trained about, trained in terms of how to build infrastructure, systems and processes within an enterprise, trained even around the soft skills of how to manage and grow business, how to survive the issues that are.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Joe?
Yeah, I'm just saying that, yeah, I mean, that is such a powerful introduction, and I'll hold you there because I can see that you're already on a roll, and we'll get there because we want to look at a way forward a little bit later. But thank you very much for setting the context, because that is really why we are here. At the end of the day, technology, so what? I think that is where you are getting, and that will be a very critical part of our conversation. But let's take it a little back. Professor Ndemo, you have been in this space for a long time. I remember you actually, even when you were not principal, those days, those people are more permanent secretary, that's what it was called. And you were part and parcel of the policy environment that brought huge innovations, the sort of revolution that we see now. I wonder how you would describe the lay of the land, as it were, in terms of technology and innovation in our country today?
Thank you for the good question. But first I want to thank him. I met him in '93, and in 1995, I used to go to his house on Ngong Road to take my email so that he sends it at night when he was able to send. And then I would go check whether I have a reply. Then a little later, we started getting Telecom Kenya to give us lines.
We didn't charge you for that.
We were friends.
Okay.
Then he actually started ARCC, which was much better. For a long time, my email was ARCC. That's how we started. And then it improved. I had a cyber cafe, and the speeds were 32 kbps. For those who don't know what that means, if you wanted to get it online, you would go and request to be online, and you go and cook and finish and eat before it goes through and you are able to do something. Then 256 would then 1 meg. So by the time I was joining government, the entire University of Nairobi had 1 meg broadband, which was not sufficient. And of course, what happened from there is that the Kibaki government sought to deal with the aspects of infrastructure first, because with infrastructure now, everybody could be able to do that. We had a process in place of getting something called East African submarine systems. Unfortunately, we were too many. We were like 22 countries. Others were not in hurry. Others used to come to meetings because of per diems. So Kenya broke out from that space, brought up the cable, landed the team's cable, and the things changed. I remember when we were at the Grand, this hotel, and
Yeah, it should be called
Grand Regency.
back then, yes.
And one of you asked me, what would be the change? And I said, that time you used to pay 60 shillings per minute on mobile. And said, we want to see this come down to 1 shilling. I think one of them said I was on drugs. So I said, let us wait. Then improvements came. We got the undersea cable, prices dropped significantly. We began now to look at the application side of it. This is the story of innovation in Kenya. What has happened has never been fully documented. If you look at the concept of digitalization, which I want to focus on more, because virtually everything you know about is going to be digitalized. Just 6 months ago, I said digitalization of currency is going to happen. And everybody said it will never happen in our lifetime. Today, we are discussing a paper from Central Bank that we are going to digitalize our currency, meaning that you will never again see paper money. It's going to be digital. So everything is going to shift into digital. Some of the benefits that we've seen when we digitalize the lands banking hall, the Ministry of Lands used to collect about 900 million shillings. And after the digitalization, 6 months down the road, that collection went to 9 billion. That is the Ministry of Lands only. So we are just beginning to see the benefits of technology impacting society, making it easier for us. I would talk about M-Pesa later on. I can see.
Yes, and I know you can speak about that the whole afternoon. So I will hold you there because Dr. Choda, you have been at this for a long time, even when all of us didn't know. I mean, to think that someone come to your house to send a simple email that now we send from our phones, it is actually mind-boggling. But from where you sit now, is this something you saw back then? I mean, what is there now? If you were to just walk back those many years, this thing that has happened, is it what you had in mind back then when you projected into the future?
Thanks, Joe. And of course, we wish Sister Eva's daughter quick recovery. I know she was just moving out of hospital. Talking of technology, it probably was even worse. Before internet, it was even computers, the older ones in our midst, no lesser than head of state, like President Moi, at a rally in Nakuru said, Kenya doesn't need computers because they're going to take away jobs. Then I was chair of computer science. Okay. It was like my work, really to try and convince even banks that they needed computers. So fast forward, the internet was even a later thing 10 years old. So the technology was also, internet was unbelievable. But let me say, as a professor, when we started the internet, it would be once you get, you would get mails, we'd call London Greenet once every week. Actually, it used to be Wednesday midnight. All mails destined for Kenya used to come through that sub. So whether the UN system or government or corporate, they would dial into that one sub place and pick mails. Then we moved from once a week to 2 or 3 times a week, and then once a day, then a number of times a day. So until we got to be live, and it used to cost just a single very narrow pipe, $16,000 per month. That's a very narrow pipe, 9.6 bots. So we've come a long way, but rather than to belabor, we could have done much more. I think we haven't done too well as we should. Of course, there are modest achievements, but I think we could have done much more in terms of leadership. I often say, where are the informaticians? Because every profession, the experts, accountants, engineers, doctors, where are the informaticians? Why don't they have opportunity to run?
Who are those?
There are.
Who are those?
There are ICT professionals. So the best that comes closest that
There
I know.
might be a few people like me who don't know. That's why.
Yeah. Now that's really, this is a sector where everybody is an expert. You know, everybody you meet is an ICT expert. And yet there are professionals that go through certain training. I think if we get to that stage where we don't treat this as anything where everybody can be. Just like entrepreneurship, there are specialists in that field who read and live and practice it. So this is why I must laud, there is a bill, practitioners, ICT practitioners bill by, I think it's Godfrey Osoti, Honorable, that's trying to streamline the sector so that specialists run with it. The last thing I want to say, Joe, here is, I do know Kenya is primed for having received lots of investments for startups. But yes, 90 or 95% of that goes to foreign companies, even though they're in Kenya. The reverse is true for Nigeria. 90-95% goes to Nigerian companies. So I think this for me is an indictment, in as much as some may say, what's wrong with that? For me, I see, if I don't see anything wrong with that, then something is not right, because I would feel very happy. Maybe 50-50, 50 to indigenous Kenyan companies and 50% going to the foreign companies. That's what I would say.
Let me bring in Eva here. Eva, I don't know if you can still hear me, but I'm just wondering from where you sit in the space of branding, in the space of strategic communication, I wonder what this change, the sea change that's being described here has meant for you, both as that professional, but also as an entrepreneur.
Sorry, Joe, I missed a little bit of your question. If you don't mind repeating it.
I'm assuming that you've been following what the two gentlemen here have been saying. I wonder
Yes, I have.
That sea change that they've described, the enormous change that has happened over the last decade and perhaps 2 decades. What has that meant for your space, both as someone who's involved in brand communication strategy and that sort of thing, but also as an entrepreneur who's trying to, as they say, do your own thing?
That's an excellent question, Joe. What this has meant is that without a doubt, the ground has been leveled in many ways than before. We are able to include many more people, for example, in the financial, access to finance by virtue of the disruption. And we're able to engage on either cause-led communication, important messaging. I mean, when you think about excluding what technology has enabled us to communicate during a global pandemic, urging people to manage themselves better, urging people to now get ready to come in for their vaccination, urging people to gain confidence about moving on with their lives. I mean, it's inconceivable. So we have found that there is a lot more diversity and inclusion by virtue of what technology has enabled us, not just even around financial inclusion, but even with enabling jobs. Through KEPSA, you may be aware of an initiative under Ajira Digital that has been going on for some time now. Thousands of young Kenyans are now able to gain dignity of work because they can have outsourced work. The judiciary that has been made reference, I think I picked some of that in the earlier, I don't know whether that was Yushem speaking into it, have been able, in a partnership with KEPSA and the Ajira program, to get young men and women to help with the records, the streamlining of it, and at the end of the day, people getting work and money for it. So, and think about even the spaces of the market woman, all the perhaps the biases that there may have been or prejudices that she wasn't good enough to walk into any banking hall. Her bank is now on her phone, and that's also been made possible because of this. So at a branding level, people are able to send branded messages, communicate and engage with their audiences in a way that's incredibly different from before. But most importantly is the ability to apply a diverse and an included way of engaging with community, with society, with people. And that's definitely been a huge disruption.
You mentioned something about COVID, which I would like us to talk to in a minute. But gentlemen, you have described this glorious journey that has brought us to where we are. But I would imagine that there is something more that you wish had happened. Is there something, Professor Ndemo, that you're sitting there and thinking, I wish we did this more so that we can maximize on these opportunities that have been availed by this sort of wave that is going around the world in this space?
There's a lot more that we should have done. Imagine within a very short period, and we're going to discuss it, we are praying differently, we are teaching differently, we are from worship to everything, we are now doing online. The one area that I still regret, and I blame the universities, is that we still continue to produce young people who are unemployable, simply because we have not matched what industry wants and what we are teaching. As we sit here, Joe, if you put on Google that you are looking for a data analyst in Kenya, you would get 10,000 vacancies on Google, but we don't have many because the universities have not woken up to the changes. The changes are moving so fast. We are still cranking out people, Bachelor of Commerce, Bachelor of Mathematics, Bachelor of whatever.
But why is that missing? Why are they not doing it? Because even in this space, people like Eva who go out there and they become entrepreneurs, there's a charge that, you know, our universities are not churning out tech entrepreneurs who are taking advantage of it.
We call it tradition in the university. The first time I came to teach a course accounting systems, and I changed from punched card keys because I never studied that in the US. The Senate could not change. So exams used to go back and say the course outline does not have those provisions. So it took like 3 years to change the syllabus itself. So bureaucracy, the tradition of the university thinking they are the last solution providers, we are missing it. It's only the private universities, including KCA, which has a data science program, Strathmore and Mount Kenya. The public universities, they don't care. Yeah, look at what we are doing now. We are going on strike so that the government gives us money to pay ourselves. Other universities are working towards delinking from government by creating different revenue streams. Imagine we never had a word like influencers. Young people, 18 years, are making 400,000 a month. You know, we have a lot of knowledge which we should stream and be better influencers. But because of bureaucracy, we are just stuck there. We have not changed, and we need to change. It needs, I don't know what it needs. Maybe we have a youth minister who would crank up the universities to begin to think that we are not doing it right.
Dr. Chodha, obviously you've moved around and seen what's happening at various universities. There is what's beginning to happen here, and I think Prof mentioned a few universities, but private ones that are already occupying that space. But what do you see out there? What are the benchmarks that you see out there that we still are missing out? Because as Prof says, we have traditions. It takes 3-4 years to approve a small change which would begin to move us in the right direction.
Joe, I would say I'm part of the old school. Some of us are now obsolete. We like retiring to the younger generations. So they are more younger, innovative. Young can do massive things.
It helps that you recognize that. Perhaps people don't even recognize.
I don't know if there's anybody in the room who knows that there is a smartphone, Kenyan engineered and produced smartphone. Anybody in the house who knows that one exists? Anybody who has heard of a smartphone called Silk? None.
So you're not as old as you think, huh?
No. Well, it's what part of the problem is that the fact that there's a Kenyan smartphone engineered, the engineering is not in the production or assembly. It's in the design. And this by Kenyan returnees from the US, although currently produced in China. But I think land has been acquired along Thika Road here to establish a factory. But already 9,000 units sold out to border borders in Nairobi and in other parts of Kenya. Kenyan owned. That's one innovation, but you know, they say prophets are never known in their own homes. The second, I don't know if anybody knows, there's a super WhatsApp, a Kenyan product called GeoSafari. You can download it. It does more than WhatsApp does, by Kenyan engineers, both in Kenya, in Australia, and New Jersey, by a company, GeoNet Communications, which is licensed in the US, competing with AT&T, 70% Kenyan owned. But of course, they come to try and do business in Kenya. They are told they are foreign company. The company telling them that they're foreign owned is 90% foreign owned, although trading in Kenya. Now, for me, that's where the problem lies, leadership. And it's not just leadership in government, it's also leadership institutions. I think this is why the leadership of KCA, Professor Midamba, Professor Isaiah, Professor Joshua, and the others must be complemented, because this is the way to go. Actually, I'm normally hesitant to go and talk publicly because I get disillusioned. We know what the problem is, but we don't do it right. Part of that leadership problem is graft, corruption. Self-interest is major. But I keep saying corruption is not Kenya's #1 problem. Impunity is. For me, corruption is number 3. Number 2 is ukabila. If we don't tackle those problems, then we never make progress as a country. So leadership, not only at government level, national and county level, but institutional, in private sector, in church, and so on and so forth. If we get that right, to sum it, I keep saying, if only we could borrow President Kagame for 10 years as a leader, Kenya would go very far. I think I rest my case.
Let me just add one thing. Yeah? The average age of an African is 19 years. Average age in Europe is 50. US is around 45. This is the continent where human resource should be coming from. We keep on talking about population dividend. We can only have a population dividend if we provide the best education to these people. They don't have to move out of this country to work for Wall Street. You have seen that. We are now working remotely from home. Yeah. So we need just to provide the right education that everybody wants, and everybody would get a job to do without even moving from their place.
Eva, lots of bottlenecks being talked about here that are still impeding our progress in this space. I don't know what your experience has been and what you feel the place of institutions of higher learning, such as where we are, will be in furthering this agenda. There are some that are incubating ideas and startups and that sort of thing in the tech space. What's your experience been, and what would be your thoughts as we begin to figure out how to involve universities more?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And I think, this is a great debate that we're having here. And I couldn't agree more with both Prof. Bitange and Dr. Ishem. You know what makes me sad, Joe, is that, there I was talking about 20 years of entrepreneurship, but something tells me that the demand for market-ready and market-fit, graduates has been a conversation that probably has gone on maybe even 15 or so years, but that we are still in the same conversation saying that there continues to be a misfit, that there is still a sense of stubbornness from native. When I say the native, this is the language in branding. We say native and new media. The native way or the old school way of delivering education, really that tension, I don't think we can continue to allow for it. So that being the case, we just must, I know that one of my brothers there has proposed a younger acumen running with some of the policy responsibilities, a reconfiguration of all the policy and regulation that is necessary to get us ready. ready because we are the African savannah, and that needn't last forever. You understand? Every day that passes and we're not doing something, creating a deposit towards that realization of our brand being the African savannah is detrimental for Kenya today and Kenya in the next few days. Capacity building that's appropriate, that is tailored to respond. You know, when Prof says an influencer, my generation, we didn't even imagine that you could have a career like that. So the reality is that they are learning on the job. They're coming to work for agencies like BST Group, whereas they could be readied for us to absorb. They could be readied for industry, and we save a lot of time and resource. Access to the right mentorship, access to the right collaborations, access to the right strategic partnerships, non-negotiable. The other one perhaps would be, you know, could we generate an urgency of shared advocacy voices? Could we begin to care much more, probably persuade the private sector wants to make these contributions as they meet at institutional roundtables to discuss the common agenda of education, for example, higher learning. Have them begin to drive agendas that would, you know, create opportunity for shared voices around advocacy, because it cannot continue this further. It compromises our competitiveness in terms of the skill set that we could share within the region. And it is just so sorry, given that we had a head start on most African countries and economies, what has just been shared as the beginnings of our technology journey. So I think that's my quick contribution, but the status quo must be disrupted. It cannot continue as has been.
Fantastic points here. At the end of the day, I've heard Shem talk about the environment that exists, and part of it political, part of it really coming down to policy. And Professor, you've been in this space, and I've heard you talk about the sort of policy environment that existed that made it possible for some of these leaps to happen. In this fast-paced, fast-changing world, what's the place of government and the sort of environment it creates or doesn't for ICT to thrive and for some of these opportunities that we're talking about to become a reality?
Yes, I said this on Tuesday at Strathmore, the same, that policy must be enabling. We must lobby that policy must be enabling. We must understand that innovation precedes policy. You cannot have a policymaker tell you what to innovate. If you remember the time of M-Pesa, there was resistance, especially from the central bank. They said, this is going to be another Anglo-leasing. You are going to steal money from people. Eventually, actually, it was the top leadership, President Kibaki, who asked a very simple question: what will this thing do to us? And when we explained it, it would move money from the mattresses into the banks. He turned around to ask, Nani anakata? That is when some of the policymakers began to say, oh, okay, we can try that. Imagine if we started from ministers, can we bring a solution to send money in a minute? Look at how much productivity improvement M-Pesa has done, because people don't know that whenever we needed to send, if somebody was sick in Mombasa, has been discharged, and they say, Joe, our sister is been discharged in Mombasa, the fastest means was telegram through posta, or we gave a matatu or a bus to take. If it rolls around Mutito and they forget about that money. So the person would stay in the hospital for 4 days until posta brings that money. the hospital charges. That is what we call productivity improvement, the cost of not having services within a very short period of time. Now you pay instantly. We have raised, you even can create a WhatsApp and do crowdfunding and remove somebody from hospital. These are things that are happening within seconds, you know. This is what we need to do. And everybody is saying digitalization is a must. It's going to happen, whether you like it or you don't like it, is going to happen. Imagine, yeah, your night suit. You used to go to a fundi, you drive to the fundi to measure you, and then you go back home. Now with the virtual reality and the augmented reality, you stand in the mirror, we measure you, we know the suit is done, brought to your house, fits you exactly. Imagine those things. We need now to get every fundi to understand precisely that, so that we remove the so many vehicles which are on the road in this country.
Now, Dr. Chodo, there are things that only you can say here, that perhaps you should get some president on loan. But I'm wondering, what is that thing that you see, say in a place like Rwanda or elsewhere, that you wish could be here? Just make it a little bit tangible, so that we can understand.
Thanks, Joe. For me, if I was asked the single word, it's data. Data is the new currency, as you said. Lots of things go around it. And why is data so important? Recently, when Central Bank did issue some notification, some work on the Kenyan digital currency, a senior member of our community asked, what do you think about it? I said, it's the way to go. We are actually late. There's no reason why Nigeria should have been ahead of us. We should have done this a year ago. So while we can commend the bank for doing it, it was the way to go a while back. I do know I'm part of the Kenya E-Trade Consortium, which we used to co-chair with former PS of trade, Dr. Chris Kiptu. It's the way to go, online business. The most profitable companies these days are Amazon and so on and so forth. They're the tech firms. That's where the money is. The DVC was talking of the creative industry. I remember in Nigeria, informed now they make more money from the film industry than from even oil. So there's a whole lot of, there is no reason why Kenyans should be, our youth should be poor, our women should be struggling. Last on this regard, and at a practical level, what are we as diasporians doing? I just talked of the product we're doing with SIDA. With GIZ, and you can check wedo.africa. And we are like to remember oil and MP, we listed a number of countries, including Australia. And one of the MPs, I think is still an MP, did ask, where is this place called the website? Everywhere we go, we are told, get the data on the website.
He wanted to drive.
Yeah, so wedo.africa, you can check that out. One of the things we're doing for the Mama Mbogas is coach, mentor, those who are selected. And if you are interested to participate, go to that site. But also, if they require that you have a benefactor in 7 EU countries. So that's just one product whereby we are identifying good products, maybe a Mama Mboga selling paraffin for 100 euros, that's 10,000 shillings. You put it in, then a benefactor sends 100 euros, show M-Pesa evidence, GIZ doubles it, say call it shilingi kwa shilingi. She already has 400 euros, that's 40,000. After like 3 months, you check if business is progressing. The bottom line is where Dr. Chandaria started, entrepreneurship. You must coach. You don't throw money at bad. Don't just give people money before you mentor and coach them. But then as the business grows, ultimately the maximum they give is 2,500 euros, which may not sound much. But if you double that, you are talking of 500,000 shillings. If the Mama Mboga was in Mitumba business, she could very easily go to Dubai and bring a bill. She's already like a millionaire within a year or so. Now, if that was done, and there's no limitation for now, theoretically. So if you have relatives, associates, friends in 7 EU countries led by Germany, and they're willing to support, the idea is how do we, that money that we know the gold mine now is, I'm not talking of DF, direct foreign investment, because we need them, but we know what they bring is only a quarter of what our own people, the Kenyans in UAE, in Gulf, in US, in other places bring. Why can't we be innovative? Get that innovative finance. Let's be even innovative in how do we get money to finance the research you do and commercialize it. I think that's a point I would say.
Eva, talk to us about that environment, that ICT policy environment, and what your experience has been. And like the two gentlemen here saying, what is that one thing you're saying? I wish this were the case. I wish this were different.
Thank you, Joe. I don't know about one thing, maybe 99 things, except we don't have all afternoon. I really, really agree that we need to strengthen policy.
I know you are a great communicator.
Yes, can you hear me though? I'm hoping that I'm still on your call. Joe, can you hear me? Joe, can you hear me? Hello? Can anybody hear me?
Because we can hear.
Okay, very well. So without a doubt, the strengthening of policy and the regulatory framework, that's, non-negotiable. But I think there's also a very important consideration that we need to discuss here and perhaps make a case for it. And maybe this is as an entrepreneur observing situations that have been, for lack of a better word, embarrassing. When we talk about capacity building, there needs to be a lot more capacity building that will help entrepreneurs appreciate their intellectual property and maybe to drive a narrative and an advocacy and a lobbying for more stringent protection from government of unfair practice. I think that often, especially because tech-led businesses are by and large operated by younger Kenyans, and many times I think there's been a sense in which maybe because of their naivety or not knowing, being ignorant about the possibilities and the dangers, let me call them the dangers. But I would want to advocate that we protect our techies and our entrepreneurs and technology that has been created by our very own from unfair competition and infringement of the intellectual property rights. And then also support the value chain development. I think Professor Bitange really touched on this when he talked about just thinking about how strengthened our productivity has become over the decades of our disruptive technology, strengthening each and every single piece of that value chain so that opportunities emerge there. People can secure gainful employment, and this whole culture of dignity can be the way that we operate as entrepreneurs. And then, of course, without belaboring the point, and maybe I would even invite Professor to speak a little more into this, the tax regimes, making them a lot more friendly, not just for SMEs, but particularly to benefit our tech entrepreneurs, because they really will be the ones powering the future. Just the example of you having your suit measured artificially, if I can use that reference, and having it delivered within a couple of days, what it saves you in terms of emission of gases and all the things in between that have been the culture. And now hearing that this is the way of life, the integration, the value chain, and making sure that taxes are are to fuel growth of that sector much more than we have seen. So if I was to maybe speak and do a thumbs up, let's drive better policy frameworks and a more efficient and friendly regulatory environment. Let us invest in the capacity building and in the competencies of our entrepreneurs to understand how to play it out on the level of intellectual property, whilst they gain confidence and courage that the environment will protect them anyway from infringement and unfair competition. And then also as part of policy, look into the tax regime so that it favors them, not so favors them just for favorism, but more to shore up the sector and drive good growth. And at the end of the day, the exchequer will be the beneficiary.
Thank you, Vanda. I'm about to open this up to our audience here and those who are joining us remotely. So please prepare those questions. But Professor Ndemo, just before we go to the audience, there is this question of Konza City. I mean, you were there at the middle of the, I don't remember how many times you spoke without Konza City just sleeping. It was almost everywhere you went, you spoke about it. And shortly after that, there was silence, but I think there's something that's been going on. I don't know to the best of where you stand. What's the place of initiatives such as Konza City? And if you were to even speak about it specifically in this conversation that we're having, is that the way to go, having those technology cities and that kind of approach?
Actually, it's good you ask in the sense that the institution that changed Korea to be what they are today was the KAIST, the Korean Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. They were kind enough to say, we can change Kenya by getting a branch of KAIST. KAIST is a more applied science institution. We do most of what we do here is more theory based. The countries that have succeeded mostly, like Germany, is because they have universities of applied sciences where they are able to do things, manufacture things. And that was KAIST was beginning to do. But some of the players did not understand what KONSA was. For example, the National Land Commission, which delayed everything by saying, this is government land. We had actually bought the land to give to investors to put up such facilities and facilitate economic development in the country. So this is a case where everybody did not understand and play their role. You can't force them, you can't do whatever. So it took so long to give them land. It's only now they're coming to break ground, build the institution. Maybe we benefit from it in the next 10 years. This is a problem. The fact that we have not discussed innovation, the way innovation happens, you have to be willing to take risk. You have to be willing to be proactive with the idea that I'm building this institution to develop capacity, which our sister has been talking about, and be able to support economic growth. We did not have that. Every ministry was in this and that. It is now that you're beginning to see the alignment. There are some facilities that have been put in place, like the data center, for example, is functional. But we have not come to universities to talk to young people how to leverage that space, the data center, in order to innovate. We are not talking about innovation here. What we are supposed to be talking with like Tari here is predictiveness, to predict what is going to happen. So the question you can ask us is that, what is going to happen and how do we take advantage of that now? What is going to happen in the next 1 year is that we are going to start saying our mamas in the rural areas cannot use digital money. The question is, what are we supposed to know? These people are supposed to leverage on natural language processing, which is artificial intelligence, and they create the language for our mamas so that when they go to their phone, they say, I'm paying Joe Ageo 500 shillings because of what and whatever. They finish the transaction. We are not doing that. We are not doing that. We would wait until Treasury says now we are shifting into CBDCs. There's going to be no cash at all. Then some Mzungu comes from abroad to come and say the solution is going to be that every language is going to be, we will label it and teach the mobile to solve the solution. We can see from the current solutions where AI is able to recognize this is Joe Ageo to minimize cybersecurity. Why aren't we having these people to develop those? Because application is going to be there in the next 1 year. When we shift, there are several areas where we need development. If they don't know, they can call someone who knows how to code. Everybody in this room should know to ask the question, there is this problem. How do we code it so that the computer solves it? This is what they ought to be knowing so that we are a solution providers. Now, last, digital literacy. The ministry has done well to take digital literacy to every constituency, but not every sub-county. Nobody's attending those classes. Now, then we begin asking, blaming the government that it didn't do anything. We are supposed to make sure that everybody, including us here, we understand digital literacy, because you have no choice. When the government switches, the central bank switches to CBDC, they don't care what you're going to say because you have had enough time to understand how the mobile would work. In fact, in Kenya, we're lucky. We've been using M-Pesa or other mobile money platforms that CBDC is not going to be a major issue for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is where I was going to finish this predictions about what's going to happen. So we finished with the Prophet Butang and Demo. Let's now go to Shem. What do you see in the horizon?
If Zed, the last two slides, actually, I had a slide talking of what's likely to happen 50 years from now.
Wow.
And of course, some of what's already happening in the developed world, the artificial intelligence part, there is the possibility of computers now evolving that are smarter than human beings. Actually, it's estimated that by 2040, there'll be a supercomputer that's smarter than all human beings' knowledge put together. That's the direction. But therein, we don't need to be, therein lies opportunity. We don't need to be crying. As Kenya Diaspora Alliance, we work very closely with Konza Metropolis. We also work closely with the Tatu City. Maybe not perfect solutions, but good ways to start. I remember once when somebody asked, do we really need a Konza? My premise was, we actually need 47 mini Konzas in each of the counties, whether it's an incubator, because that's the opportunity, particularly promoting entrepreneurship, but also technology and innovation, particularly if we can commercialize it. Zedi, were you able to get the last two slides? There's one that talks about that. But, but other than that, yes, I think fully, if we were able to harness, there are certain high fast growth sectors, not just IT for the sake of it, because it's fairly broad. There are particular areas which are very applicable in our case. So if we can target those areas which have got high propensity. I remember early last year attending an event convened by President Obasanjo's Presidential Library, and it presided over called Africa Intellectual Fiesta with about 200 African top professionals. It emerged, we're looking at what are the 7 most promising areas to create decent jobs for African youth. Of course, creatives industry was one of them. IT-enabled services is another. Value addition in the various aspects is another. One of the things that I'm very proud of is a project we run in Kisii as diaspora returnees that produces 10 products just from banana, okay? Peering in this regard with the Kisii University. I think we need more of such universities working with industries, micro and mini factories. In this particular case, just from the banana alone, the team is producing banana wine, sanitizer, soap, banana jam, ladies' hair, and so on and so forth. Just from ethanol, just banana alone. And some, currently we know there's the Dubai Expo, where a number of Kenyan entrepreneurs and leaders are or have been. One of the products being shown, exhibited there is from that factory. I think much more if we can get enterprises, businesses, and for me, there's no bigger private sector than the diasporas from the capacity. We can engage and take advantage. And for an institution like KCA that already has got a number of them, please tap into that new money. As long as you can demonstrate there's benefit in it, that's the way to go. So for me, invest, and particularly invest in data and utilize data so that it's evidence-driven development and research and innovation. I think that's what I would say.
Lovely. Now we need to take some questions, and please feel free to ask your questions to any of the two gentlemen here and Eva, because she'll be able to hear us from wherever she is. And if you could identify yourself when you ask the question so that we know where you're coming from. Let's just see an indication. How many people will have questions here? There's a gentleman over here, two of them actually. Behind me, someone will give me some eyes behind here. But let's start with the first three, and then we can take the next batch. Make sure there's a little bit of a gender balance there.
Okay. I'm Alex, and I'm Alex Were.
Is your microphone on, sir? Because I don't think we can hear you very well.
Check.
Okay, then just speak louder.
Check. Yes, I'm Alex Were, a student here at KCA pursuing software development. And my question goes specifically to Professor Ndemu. I happened to go through the history of Konza City, and I acknowledge that you are known for great development and listing the Konza City. And in this case, I identified the empowerment of the undersea fiber cable. And then this was an innovation that was to spur development of other technologies. And it seems the dream of Konza City shifted after the coming up of or the change of the political climate. And so my question was to ask, how should we cope with the political climate when it affects the innovation technology space that we have?
Thank you. The next one. Yes, sir.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bolole Bonventure. I partake software development in KCA. My question is, we do know that most of technology innovation are based in the disruptive technologies. So we can see that M-Pesa being one of the disruptive technology in Kenya. So my question was, how can we pool our resources so that we can build innovation on it? Thank you.
Okay, let's just make sure this is a lady now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sharon doing the ISF at KCA University, and I have a question on social conformity, because I think the reason why most of youth are not into technology is because of social conformity, where the social status shapes our character and how we interact with others. Those one who try to take a different route or align with, or not align with the mainstream standard, find themselves like excited or shocked or unable to pursue their dream because they're overcome by insecurities. So I was asking, how can we, as youth, how do we overcome this social conformity and insecurity? Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ndem, I think you could go first. The Konza city dream, I think is a fantastic question there about the impact of politics or the political climate, as they called it, on the ICT policy environment, and gave us a specific example of Konza.
Actually, it's a very good question in the sense that when we developed Vision 2030, we all agreed, I mean, I'm saying we Kenyans, that time it was a coalition government, that we would have one blueprint until 2030. And nobody should change the course of that blueprint. Vision 2030 was supposed to remain, but somehow politicians find a way of coming up with different projects. For example, Agenda 4, which we would have actually achieved within Vision 2030, because manufacturing or value addition is in the Vision 2030. We should have remained with the term Vision 2030 so that everybody knows this is our development framework. Konza was a Vision 2030 project, meaning that every other leader who came, they were to advance the same project. We don't know what would happen after this government leaves office and we get a new government. Will they embrace Vision 2030? Will they come with their own new projects? Because from independence, that has been happening. A good project is broken because a new government has come, and then it totally confuses the entire country. I agree with you that there should have been continuity, which was actually agreed upon. And hopefully that continues, or whoever comes back and says, me, I want to deliver Vision 2030. I am hoping that, but it is us, the citizens, who can begin to say, we need Vision 2030, because leadership, good leadership is led by the followers. So in fact, if we go to a rally and shout that we want Vision 2030, they will not change it. But sometimes we are very passive after the elections, and that's why the lead, I think it should have been answered by a politician.
By a politician.
By a politician.
But you can put it together. He's shaking his head. Maybe he's no longer one. But
yes, the M-Pesa one, by the way.
Yeah.
There is actually APIs. You can do what you want to do, and they link into M-Pesa. But the good thing God has given us is too many problems. Any problem is an opportunity. So if you want one day, I come here and talk about opportunities that ought to be exploited that are not being exploited, I could come here and say that. Because it's either there's a serious opportunity, there is a policy change, there is, all these are resources of problems. That's where sources of opportunities for entrepreneurialism. So like the counties, we didn't see, we did not wake up. What happened is that the Americans understood when you change policy, opportunities arise. So Java started moving to counties because there are a few millionaires now who can eat or drink in Java rather than China Mandashi, which characterized our rural places. Now you
okay.
go to Java, you find they are full. Okay, thanks.
All right. Dr. Chudo, before we go to Eva, that point of innovation, I think that's something that you could respond to.
I think, Joe, what I would say, probably tie it with the point the lady who spoke last talked about, conformity. I think for time immemorial, disruptions have come from people, non-conformants. So if we're going to be just conforming with the status quo or how things have always been done, innovation by nature and by definition has to be disruptive. But even though we take risks, it's got to be calculated risk. So it's not just reckless risk or risk for the sake of it. So, but again, it goes back to the aspect of where's the data and the evidence that that's the way to go. In terms of pooling resources, again, this is the way to go. You can't do these things alone. I always say there are things that governments cannot do alone. There are also things that universities on their own cannot do alone. There are even things even diasporas alone on their own can't do. But you need what I call 4 Ps, public, private, people's partnerships. The people's there may include the researchers, the professionals. So it's all about leadership. Start small, but scale, and there are opportunities for it. And for the colleagues at KCA, you see it well. If entrepreneurship was the icing, was the cake, anything else becomes an icing around it, then it makes sense. So that even innovation that you make, it's so sad that every year, each of our universities have got this good thesis and all project documents that you churn out every year, but they just gather dust on the shelves. They're not being commercialized. It's a gold mine. So the knowledge management passed, but practically, how do you realize it? You realize it by a few people coming together, entrepreneurs and technologists to make it happen.
So Eva, just some quick response on this question of social conformity. How do the young people get out of this comfort zone to be disruptive? That's a word that you used several times in your interventions.
Yes, thank you. Let me very quickly respond. First, yes, can you hear me?
You still have Eva?
Yes, I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay, maybe then we take the next round of questions.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Eva.
I can hear you. Joe, I can hear you very clearly.
We'll have time for another.
Good afternoon, and I'm Winnie. I am an intern at KCA. So I have a question. My question probably will go to Eva, but since she's not around, anyone.
I'm on the call.
The panelist. So my question.
I'm on the call.
Discussion is about innovation, technology, and entrepreneurship. You find that most of the young people, they take their business to the internet, and you find that you get some of these are scammers. They are not legit business. What can the government do to protect customers? And what, since this is a website or a web thing, most of the people try to report to the primary company. What can our government do to protect the customers from scammers? Thank you.
Thank you. The next one.
Joe, there is one this side.
Okay.
Don't forget this call.
That side has been marginalized. Huh? Okay.
Hello, my name is Lemmy. Staff here. Now I have 2 questions. One of the beginning with an analogy that given that M-Pesa is an idea that is mostly rumored to be originated here by a few Kenyans, and it's been fronted by Safaricom, and now it's more or less almost a global institution. My question is, first of all, what measures has the government put in place? I think Professor would be better to answer this, having served in the ministry for 8 years. What measures would the government what measures has the government put in place to enable growing and innovative ideas? And again, now that M-Pesa is fronted by Safaricom, had it been fronted by a normal typical citizen who had the idea, would it be where it is today now that you say that it required a presidential intervention to be what it is today? So I'd like to, maybe them to respond on this.
Okay, let's have.
Hello, everyone. I'm Willis Koy, a student at KC University and passionate about leadership, policy, and administration. So my question will be directed to the panelists, but in the line of politics and policy. So the first one, I'll ask Dr. Shem. I heard him talk about that the youth should not be poor in this country. I strongly concur with you, but how can the youth not be poor when we've had cases like the professors in the university, some of them steal the ideas from these graduates, PhD students who are doing them. And just to be clear, but I haven't had one from KC University. And where do we have a problem with the leadership or the people in those leadership positions? Where do we draw the line so that we can have to know where the specific problem is and who and what are the best possible solutions according to you, sir?
Joe, maybe a last one from this end.
Okay.
Good afternoon. You've spoken about innovation from a very broad spectrum, and
did you say your name?
my name is Ashley Wanjiro. So, what would also be contributing to part of this question? Also, answer part of the question. So, what would be the way forward for the youths who are struggling with the infrastructure? You've already you've told us that the youth have been really empowered by the government, but when we're talking about technology, we have a lot of specifics, like in terms of security, we have spoken about artificial intelligence. There's infrastructure for that. If you're talking about augmented reality, there's specific resources that we need. So what are the ways we can approach this for the youth who doesn't want to dial down their ideas and still continue pursuing these big ideas and know the people who we should surround ourselves with, since everyone at this point we see as if everyone is out to get us, because there's always that person who wants to steal their ideas. You speak. Yeah.
Thank you. So did we have Eva back or?
Can you hear me?
We have Eva. I think Eva will start with you. There are two questions that are tied there about basically people stealing other people's ideas. I mean, you're an innovator, you have a brilliant idea out there, but you need to talk to some people at the end of the day for it to come to fruition. How do you know who you're talking to? And how do you make sure that your idea doesn't become someone else's?
Yes, thank you. And I apologize. I don't know why. I followed the entire conversation and I was actually beginning to respond to the social conformity question. So Joe, I don't know whether you'd still want me to give a stab at that as well, or we go straight into the IP one.
Very quickly.
Can you guide me kindly? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I think there's a very important conversation I'd like to engage. The previous question on social conformity, and my colleagues did make good attempt. Shem, began to respond to that, but the young lady who asked the question, the first thing for you as an entrepreneur, and for you who wants to to actualize your gifts and your talents as a techie is to know that you come into this space beautifully gifted. You must wake up in the morning and remind yourself that and make no apology for it. The second is, whilst you're in that zone of knowing what your gifting is, establish what your identity is. What is it you want to be known for? How it is you will want to be differentiated. And you must remember that that perhaps is the thing that will be your game changer. So there will always be in life, irrespective of whether you're a student in university or you get into the work stream, there will always be naysayers. There will be people who will always, get you distracted from the thing that is your purpose and your passion. You must employ 5 very quick principles, and I'm speaking from my entrepreneurial journey. Employ courage to dream your dream and dream it big. Make no apology for it. Be courageous to put together an idea on paper. Be courageous to be audacious about the idea. Be courageous to find a mentor and a coach. Be courageous to even say, because I know I'm in the intellectual property space, maybe I need to go see a lawyer, or maybe I need to join a business association that can introduce me to their intellectual property zone, so that I can find a way to patent this. And maybe now I'm doing the social conformity together with the IP question. But beyond being courageous, I want you to remember that capability must be beyond the degree that you're currently studying or the diplomas. Find other ways to enhance your skills so your differentiation is real. That people can say without a doubt, she really has got what it takes. Beyond that, we've talked about issues around our very warped social values as Kenyans, and that is who we have become. Become differentiated because you'll be a woman of character, a young man of character. Let people see you and say, this one is a bankable case, that they are absolutely what brand stands for, what they have purposed their business to be about. Then remain committed to your values, remain committed to the people you're creating your solution for, your customers, the stakeholders in your community, and the people you may employ. Remain committed to them. At the end of the day, we are Kenyan. This is our African continent. Our brand is African Savannah. We then must also be compassionate and embrace your enterprise with the eyes and a lens of compassion in order for you to shake off the social conformity that is supposed to be the label. And I agree with Shem. Last year, if I can share my personal journey, I'd always had a dream, and it boiled in me in 2017, and it was boiling in me because I was asking myself, when I turned 20 in my business, what is it I want to really do that is a convergence of my passion and my practice? And my business last year launched the first ever, the inaugural, never been done in Kenya, never been done in Africa, the first ever top 100 most loved brands by women in Kenya. An absolute disruption, an absolute innovation, so that we can now get to the place of using real data around women consumers and getting policymakers, investors, brand owners, managers, business owners, not for profit, UN, to have data that begins to shrink the disparity that exists in understanding what women's needs are, their aspirations, their anxieties, their fears, etc. So I am saying to you, be bold, be courageous, enhance your capability, invest in your character, go there, be committed to the cause. Don't let your dream be taken away from you. And around the issue of intellectual property, before you speak to more than 2 people who are trusted, because of course you always have your 1 or 2 trusted mates, speak with a good lawyer about your intellectual property. This is the thing that must be taught in enterprise school, especially for those in services, those who are thinking through things that are differentiated. So find good legal advice, surround yourself with that competency and proficiency. And then at a policy and regulatory framework, we must up our game around cybercrime and all the cyberbullying that can go on with that. So Joe, I know I may have spent a little more time than you have allocated, but I'm hoping that some of this contribution will go to strengthen several of the entrepreneurs on this call and in the hall to this afternoon to just go and dream their dream big and make no apology for delivering on their dream. Thank you. Back to you, Joe.
Thank you very much, Shiva. We actually were trying to make up for the time also that we lost you there for a moment, but you dealt with some of those questions so comprehensively. And now I'll add one or two more from our online participants so that we can begin to wrap this up because our time is really gone. And Professor Ndemo, there is a question here which I think would be best directed to you. It says, how do we mainstream youth tech and innovation hubs in the villages, schools, as envisioned in Vision 2030? That's the first question. And then the other one from Sharon, who is a Bachelor of Science Information Security student. She says, is there a body of authority that can be approached to help move the university syllabus from being theory-based to more hands-on? That is practical. And she gives an illustration that she's a cybersecurity student and she's being told that the degree lacks value until she's able to add other certifications. And she's saying she wishes she could be job ready, she could be market ready when she comes out.
I would start with that because Muindi's question was sort of answered by Eva.
Yeah, that's why
cybersecurity and other stuff. The last question on finishing a degree in accounting, getting your CPA, and you find yourself irrelevant in the workplace because a lot of the work that you've been doing double entry is now taken care of by the computers. So you actually must add value by doing the analytics of what the computer churns out. You should not wait that someone creates a syllabus. You should go online and actually educate yourself. When I did some programming several years ago, I did something called COBOL. I did something called Pascal. People here don't know it. So I had to go back and because everybody's talking about Python, I had to do it myself online. There's a lot of resources online which will show you how you do things. Degrees, yes, we still need theory-based courses because those end up doing research. And then we need also practical applied courses, which helps you to do some work in the field. And some of this can actually be found if there was a law that, as in Germany, that every organization must have interns. I heard you are an intern, where you do some practical aspects and also supplement that from what you see online. Then you become useful. You can't just sit there and say, I've got a degree, I need to be hired. It doesn't work like that this time. Yes.
The vision now it's down to the villages to create innovation hubs in villages and schools.
Yes, we need investors in the villages. There are no investors. There are no people to open up acceleration centers or incubations. The county must spend some resources and say in every sub-county, we have a central place. We had actually dreamed of it by creating digital villages. This was the role digital villages were going to to play where people come to a central place and share ideas. Even though the person who was asking about ideas being stolen, whatever I do myself, I share it with my enemies because then they don't think it is important that I shared. And it comes from innovation. For somebody called Schumpeter who said, if you make juice from oranges or sell bananas in a market, and someone comes to sell bananas in that market, move out of that, make banana smoothie. You are now in a new space. And if they make the smoothie, move out and make banana bread. So you move to another level. This is what we call innovation. Innovation is not to sit and cry that someone is going to steal my idea. And someone will steal it and you don't get anything. But you must be able to think the innovation that I've come with, what is the next level where I can hide myself and get some premium revenue until I am better off.
Okay, Prof. This we can discuss for a long time because it's a very engaging debate. But I want us to start finishing because our time is really gone. So I want to just get a couple of last words as we finalize this. And we'll start with you, Dr. Ochodo. What you're reflecting on as we finish this conversation that we cannot leave this room without hearing.
I think the one thing I would not leave here without talking about COVID. I think the Diaspora COVID Task Force has come up with probably the best remedy on earth to manage COVID, called the CR7, COVID Remedy 7. It was one of the slides. And those more than 10,000 people who were positive COVID within 24 hours, 48 hours, turned negative. That's African traditional natural remedy for COVID. Kenyan owned by 3 professors, one from Egerton, the other Scotland, and the other in China. In terms of the Dean IT faculty, let me make an offer on behalf of Kenya Diaspora Alliance. Currently, we are working on a KDA app. The diasporaportal.com, if you visit that, is like a one-stop shop for diasporas. And this diaspora youth organization. Pick on 3 of your good programmers or students who we can work with to develop that app. The best one will take as an intern for at least 6 months. So that's an offer we are making realistically so that we can mentor and engage some of the interns. Maybe lastly, in terms of intellectual property and way forward for youth, I think we need to strengthen our intellectual property rights. It goes back to leadership. It falls and starts with leadership. And that applies even to the question that was being asked, how do we create youth need not to be poor? It's very difficult as individuals or institutions or organizations to solve unless this is done at the very highest level of government, national and also county. I would say for county, lastly, we have a forum, and we have a number of forums. One you want to check out on Informatician Society of Kenya. I remember as a graduate student, we used to ask our professor, they call themselves this or that, surveyor and all. What do we call ourselves? From today, you call yourselves informaticians. If you are graduating in an IT program. In that regard, there's the Informatician Society of Kenya, professional body, trying to bring order so that this is also seen as a profession. So I was mentioning we have also a forum for some of Kenya's or Africa's top cyber security experts. Look at them as a cyber army. Again, we could utilize those brains, both within and outside the country, if there was goodwill. Lastly, even for the governors, we have also a forum with county ICT directors, but they're not being given the necessary priority treatment. So again, it goes back to leadership, not just at national, but also at country. Otherwise, thanks for this opportunity. We look forward to continued engagement. You can check us online as well.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. Eva, if you're still with us, just some final thoughts. Like me, you can speak a lot, so let's just keep it brief. I know some of us are living by talking. Eva.
No problem. Can you hear me? Joe, I'm not leaving until you give me permission.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, very quickly, 3 things that I want to say. First, of course, how grateful we are to have been part of this conversation. But similar to Shem, I did make reference of the top 100 most loved brands by women in Kenya study. We go to the field next week to publish the next one, which will be in March. BSD Group would be very, very happy to offer an internship to a data analytic who we will coordinate with the placement office so that they can intern with us and use that opportunity to introduce themselves to the world of branding. And in there, just to say to the university and to the community of students, if you ever needed to find solutions for women consumers, the study does give a lot of insight into what you may want to start creating some prototypes, etc. The second thing I want to say is that we all know that this is a peculiar year in Kenya, peculiar because we have begun the political, rhetoric, I want to call it that perhaps, but then also to say the village or county setting of the centers of excellence. Can you all young Kenyans make sure that those asking for your vote have built that into their manifestos and that they will present to you convincing operational evidence that they will make that a priority? Because the conversation we're having this afternoon, tension is high around having a real misfit of industry and the talent that we're churning out of the universities. So I think if we can do something as Kenyans out of this community this afternoon, is to make sure that those asking for your vote, whether at an MCA level all the way up, build digital literacy as a priority. The last, and I think I'm so happy, Joe, you're on this call with us, is that listening to Bitange when he talked about digitization and the space of digital literacy. Joe, you represent the fourth estate. You represent Wanjiko. Could we perhaps challenge the fourth estate to take on digital literacy as a do or die? That there cannot be a bulletin or a feature or an opinion editorial or a report that will not have taken time to drive an understanding, a sense of clarification, a sense of motivating and incentivizing Wanjiko to become more digitally literate, because otherwise she will get excluded in the socioeconomics moving forward. That said, I want to thank the KCA community for including me as an entrepreneur, and I have learned so much this afternoon, courtesy of the questions that have been posed, but certainly because of the distinguished contribution of the panelist, Professor Bitange, lovely to reconnect, and Shem, my dear friend, Asante Nisana. Thank you for your kind invitation and attention.
All right, thank you very much, Eva, and the final word is going to come from Professor Bitange.
Thank you. I was going to protest.
I noticed
that I didn't get time to say thank you to KCA for once again inviting me. My friend Eva is an entrepreneur. My friend Shem leads a huge organization. They have offered 2 positions. Me, I don't have a place to offer, but I can offer myself to come here and just work on emerging solutions. What do we need? What do we need to do? We begin from the problems to actually getting into some of the solutions that we are going to need in the next few days coming. And the challenge that Eva has given you, media has has a huge role to play on digital literacy. Without digital literacy, we may not implement all digitalization to their fullest potential. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And that challenge is taken, even if media itself is now all kinds of things, but that is a point that is taken and taken in good stride. So thank you very much, my panelists who have been extremely exciting, extremely engaging, giving insightful thoughts. This is truly what we could call thought leadership in an area that is fast changing, fast moving, yet we cannot do without. So thank you very much to my panelists, Dr. Shemo Chulo, thank you very much, Professor Pitangen Demo, and of course, Eva Muraya, who was unfortunately not able to join us physically, but thanks to technology, which is actually what we're discussing here, she was still part and parcel of that conversation. And of course, the great audience here at KCA, and last but not least, the management that agreed to host all of us in this space to discuss something that we truly need to keep talking about. So, as I said, let's keep this conversation going because it is indeed an important conversation. So until next time.
And also thanking Joe Aguayo for
Well done, Joe. Well done, Joe. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Joe. Well
All right,
done.
so you do have a lovely evening or afternoon, morning, wherever you might be. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye
Let's give them a
bye.
round of applause, please. Thank you very much, Joe, for taking this home. And it's at that point that I would wish to invite Professor Ogao on behalf of our DVC, supported by our very able corporate affairs manager, to just offer a token. So Professor Ogao and Zedi, kindly let's just go upstage. Okay, we can offer it from here. So I will request our guests. We'll ask Professor Ndemo, you'll come one at a time. Professor Ndemo, kindly come and receive your gift from KCA University Vice Chancellor. It's the picture, and Prof. Ogao, please smile because this is a lifetime one. Huh? You'll put in your frame. Prof, we can move this way so that the background can be clear. Let's give them a round of applause, please. Thank you very much. Prof. Ogao has really tried today, that smile. Asante. Next, we want to invite Dr. Shemo Chuodo to come and also receive a token from our Vice Chancellor. Daktari, karibu sana. Yeah, let's give him a round of applause as he comes. Asante, thank you very much. Let's give Daktari a round of applause. Thank you very much, Daktari. We celebrate you. We are going to claim those promises from Professor Ndemo and Dr. Shem. Now, on behalf of Eva Muraya, I want to request MD to come and receive, then we'll relay the same. MD is Mercy Dorcas. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Zedi, for such a wonderful. Let's give Zedi a round of applause, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you. To this end, I wish to invite the Dean, Research, Innovation, and Outreach Division, Dr. Christine Simiyu, for a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Bwana Rogers, for the invitation. So Ms. Eva Muraya, the CEO, BSD Group, Professor Bitange Ndemo, Dr. Shemo Chwotho, the convener for Kenya Diaspora Alliance, the moderator of today's event, Mr. Joe Akeyo of Royal Media Services, and all the participants, especially our beloved students. Good evening. On behalf of KCA University, I extend a warm appreciation to all of you present today here. I would also like to express our gratitude to all esteemed virtual participants for their presence and contribution that made the event a great success. Thank you very much, our panelists, for finding time from your busy schedules to grace the event. We have learned a lot in the space of innovation and technological entrepreneurship. Key message is that technology is taking over the world. And this presents a lot of opportunities to look forward to and tap into for the prosperity of KCA University and the community around us and beyond. A special thanks goes to our visionary Vice Chancellor, Professor Isaiah I.C. Wakindiki, our valued DVC, Professor Joshua Bagakas, eminent professors in our midst, deans, chair of departments, all KCAU staff, the students, and alumni for providing immense support to make today's discussion successful. Finally, I thank the organizing team led by the Director for Innovations, Incubations, and Leakages, Dr. Rotich, for working hard for the past few days to make this event glamorous. Thank you, everyone, and may God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As we close it, I want us to do it the KCA way. We want to give these gangsters flowers. So let's mold the flowers nicely. Let's mold the flowers. Joe Ageyo, please watch the KCA style. Let's mold the flowers. Let's give them flowers. Joe Ageyo, you should be receiving the flowers because you're being given. Dr. Receive. Okay, let's mold the flowers. Let's mold the flowers. Let's give our guests these flowers. Thank you. Thank you very much. To that end, we have come to the end of this program. I want to sincerely thank our guests. And of course, the chief gangster is living here and going to prepare for the news gang on Citizen TV at 9, immediately after the 9 o'clock news. And he has been leading a tech gang. And the first gang in this tech gang has been Dr. Shemo Chwotho. Let's give him a round of applause. The second gang on this tech gang has been Professor Bitange Ndemo. Let's give him a round of applause. And the third gangster has been Eva Muraya. Let's give her a round of applause. The fifth and final gangster has been Rogers Abongo. Let's give a round of applause. Thank you. May God bless you. At that point, I want to request Sister Wanjiku Njuguna to come and close it with a word of prayer. And as she comes, we immediately will have our guests take photos here at the media banner center. Then we will allow them to leave at that point. Thank you. Let's give our sister a round of applause as she comes.
Let's pray. Father, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, we thank you so much for such a wonderful afternoon. We thank you that we've been able to learn so much from our speakers. We thank you for each one of them. We thank you, Lord, for the new insights, wisdom, understanding, new knowledge, new perspectives. And Father, as a university, we are praying that, Lord, you may help us to embrace that, be able to practice that, to have value addition, and to be very personal in our personal development, Lord, that you are going to impact even to our students, to our society, and to add to our great Kenyan, Lord. We thank you and we bless you as we disperse, Lord, to different ways. Father, I pray for your divine protection. And we thank you so much for the gift of life today. We thank you for each one of us, Lord. And Father, we bless you for who you are. In Jesus' name we pray and believe. Amen.
Thank you very much, guys. It has been technology and innovation doing pleasure with you. Have a wonderful evening.